So to take a wonderful example, Jay Bhattacharya is now being considered as a possible candidate to lead the National Institutes of Health. That is just wonderful. So we had Dr. Bhattacharya on very early in this program when he started becoming much more prominent on the national scene. He was the leader of something called the Great Barrington Declaration. The Great Barrington Declaration was a sort of heterodox view of what should be done about COVID. He suggested, instead of these gigantic lockdowns, instead of mask mandates and all the rest, effectively speaking, you should do what actually I had suggested quite early on in the pandemic. We should tranche out populations by health into the general public and allow those people to get COVID because they would live and they would be fine. And it would eventually create a general immunity to COVID, which is effectively what happened, because despite all the attempts to immunize the population and prevent the spread, the immunity didn't actually hold to prevent spread. It may have mitigated the effects of COVID for people who were very obese or very old, but for most people, it didn't stop you from getting COVID or transmitting COVID in the first place. And so what actually ended the COVID threat, such as it was Omicron, was the commonality of a far milder strain of the virus. And Bhattacharya had basically recommended a strategy that would have produced precisely that, but faster. And he was ripped up and down. In fact, Dr. Anthony Fauci had used his assets at the NIH in order to prevent the work of the Great Barrington Declaration from being promulgated anywhere. He attempted to silence the voices surrounding the Great Barrington Declaration, including Dr. Bhattacharya. As the Washington Post reports, when 3 academics in October 2020 insisted it was time to roll back COVID lockdowns, writing an open letter known as the Great Barrington Declaration that attracted hundreds of thousands of signatures, public health leaders rebuked their proposal as premature. Francis Collins, then director of the NIH, privately dismissed the authors as fringe experts and called for a takedown of their suggestions to reopen schools and businesses, according to emails subsequently released under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, one of the authors of the declaration, Jay Bhattacharya of Stanford University, appears poised for a top government health role, perhaps as head of NIH itself. Bhattacharya is a strong candidate to lead the nearly $50 billion agency in the coming Trump administration, with his name on an internal list of contenders being compiled by RFK Jr.